How you doing, everyone? Turkey Buzzard here. Hope you're having a good day. Well, I'm back up here at Sunshine Tidings where I was 2 weeks ago and built a church and a yurt building. Now, I'm not going to go inside the church this week because I already did a tour of that and I put the video out 2 weeks ago. So if you'd like to see the interior of the church, I would suggest that you watch that video. Now, last week when I put out my video, I had a complaint about some sound issues with my video. And although I talked to several people and they didn't hear any problems, I did decide to make a couple adjustments just to try to make this more enjoyable for everyone. So we'll see how it works out. Anyway, this is the yurt building, and I did finish working on it. Now, I originally planned on making this building like a community center type thing. So I put all kinds of seating around the fireplace. And then I added some soda machines and some games. And I also put in booths and other seating. Then I set up an area where they could cook and have food and all that. Now, I know when you have a community center, a lot of different, parties and things get hosted at these community centers. So, I don't know. Maybe this ended up a community center. Maybe it ended up a store. I'm not really sure. I do know I like the way it came out. So, we'll see what happens with it. Now, these games, I tried to repair those so that they didn't look broken. Settlement Objects Expansion Pack has info walls. They're glass, and they basically have different things on the walls. And I shrunk them down and put them on there so it looked like the games were actually usable. But when you shrink those down, you have to fast travel away and come back to reset the global collision on them. And every time I tried to fast travel back, my game crashed on me. And no matter what I did, I could not get them to work. So finally I gave up and I deleted the glass pieces out of there and just left these the way they are. But moving on, this building is actually the rusted metal garage that had the workbench in it. And I didn't like the way it looked. So I redid the outside using the Cabin in the Woods mod. And I moved the workbench out here. Then I built a playground here because I wanted to turn this building into the Sunshine Tidings Schoolhouse. And I redid the interior of this using the Snappy House Kit mod. Now, this was tricky because none of the walls would snap to the floors or anything. So I had to make sure to get the first wall set perfect so that the other walls would snap to it. So it took a while to get this interior done, but I liked the way it came out in the end. And I also gave him a bathroom here. So really, it didn't come out too bad considering. Now, the unlocked settlement objects with the new update gave us the ability to put in NPCs. And of course, that means children. Well, I had high hopes for this. However, I am sorely disappointed with it. Now, if you look at these kids, I put those kids in that position a week ago and they're still in the same position. You know, I can understand not being able to assign the kids to certain jobs or not being able to trade with the kids. However, I was hoping that these kids would at least walk around or interact with objects in the settlement or interact with each other or do something. I even put a couple of kids out here on the playground, hoping that if they didn't interact with the stuff here, they'd at least maybe sit down on the ground and talk to each other or do something. But they don't. They stand in one position. They don't move, they don't walk, they don't do anything. So in my opinion, they're totally pointless to have in my settlement. You know, it's a big disappointment to me. If I want useless settlers to stand around and do nothing, I can put up a recruitment beacon and get all of those I want. So I don't need a mod to give me useless settlers. And I'm really disappointed because Andrew CX is a great mod author, and I had high hopes for that. But such as it is. Now, my settlers needed a place to live, place to sleep, so I built this hotel. And I used the Cabin in the Woods mod for this hotel. And this is Jacob. He runs this hotel. And you'll notice many couches around this settlement. They're all beds. So I have plenty of places for settlers to sleep. Jacob has an apartment back here. And I use Snappy House Kit to put in rugs and flooring and stuff. I also use Modular Kitchen. And it looks like Jacob has kids. Actually a pretty nice apartment. So it didn't turn out too bad. And then the rooms that the settlers rent are actually around here on the side. And like many places that rent rooms, it's a community bathroom. You come down the hall to use the bathroom. Now these rooms are pretty much identical. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on them. About the only thing you'll find different in these rooms is the bedding, whatever's on the dresser, maybe the paintings. But other than that, these rooms are all pretty much identical. It's just a place for my settlers to sleep, so I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. However, it didn't come out too bad. Around here on the side, I did set up a small spot. So I'd have a place for some workbenches. Now most of my week was spent working on building a Super Duper Mart. And normally when I build a store, I use do-it-yourself to place all the items in there because I'm basically lazy. However, building a supermarket, I didn't feel it was appropriate just to dump a bunch of junk on the shelves using do-it-yourself. So I decided to do most all of the shelves by hand. Now, normally when you walk into like Walmart or someplace, on the outside they have all kinds of outdoor things that they have for sale. You know, here's some grills and stuff, some lawnmowers, and I got a couple riding lawnmowers there. And those riding lawnmowers are actually shrunk down tractors, and the mower deck is actually a blown up bread box. So it worked out. It came out all right. Now these things on the wall here are door sensors, and Settlement Objects Expansion Pack has a auto doors mod, and I believe that's where those door sensors came from. I never noticed them in my workshop before. However, I did come across them, so I decided, well, let me try them out and see how they work. Well, they work nicely. You get close to these doors and they automatically open And I think that's just, it's cool because that's what happens at supermarkets when you go there. So I really like the way that worked. So you come in the supermarket and you can either grab a shopping cart, or if you don't have much to buy, grab a shopping basket. Of course, we got some soda machines, an ice machine and stuff up front. And as I said, I didn't want to just use do-it-yourself, so I started putting things in here by hand. And these bins I used a quarter floor piece and I put railings on them. And then I shrunk them all down. Those are like maybe not quite half, a little over half size. So I shrunk them all down to make them fit on here. And of course, shrinking them down, I had to fast travel away and come back to reset the global collision on them. And then I was able to fill them up. And this one took a while because there are a lot of mute fruits in there. Now these conveyors don't look like they're working, but they are. After I fast traveled away and came back, the conveyors looked like they weren't working, but no, I don't know why that's doing that, but yeah, they are working. Oops, fell on the floor. Anyways, you know, the conveyors are working, and I spent some time stacking things here. Now, I'm going to do a video tomorrow, a tips and tricks video on stocking shelves, because there's several different methods you can use and that you have to use if you're going to stock shelves by hand. And, you know, one way is to just put things on the shelves while you're in workshop mode, which is fine. And if you do that, things will stay where you put them. However, if you put things on the shelves by hand, if you fast travel away and come back, they've shifted position. You know, normally when people put things on shelves, the things can be knocked off. Well, having the Place Anywhere mod, you're able to make these objects become static objects. Okay? And then that way, they don't get knocked off. So I could shoot these glasses and they wouldn't get knocked off. However, when you do that, like that, you fast travel and come back, they've shifted position. See this one coffee cup? It has shifted position. So then when you come back, you have to go in and adjust the position on it again. Now once you adjust the position, it'll stay where it belongs from then on. Now this area, this cooler here with the beer, liquor, soda, this is one place I did use do-it-yourself. I thought it would work nicely for this, and it did. So I did use do-it-yourself for this cooler. However, the milk bottles had to be placed by hand. Same idea here. Everything was placed by hand. And of course, once I turned them into static objects, I fast traveled away, came back, had to readjust them. Now, whenever I fast travel and come back, they stay in the proper position. But still, it's time consuming, especially when it comes to food. Okay, because this doesn't act like anything else. This took a long time to set this stuff up. Now this playthrough, I've been working on this playthrough since the beginning of June. And it doesn't sound like a long time to be working on a playthrough. However, I've got several huge builds on this playthrough. I did my County Crossing garage and diner build. I did my Oberlin train station. My Fort Spectacle build, which was humongous. My Cabin in the Woods player home between Abernathy's and Red Rocket. I did my Murkwater Raiders settlement. all these huge builds have bogged my game down, and it's slowed me down to the point where if I get in workshop mode now, it takes about somewhere between 2 and 3 minutes to get into workshop mode. Well, that creates a huge problem, because when you place objects that are food, like this object here is a food object. If I place that by hand on there and turn it into a static object, when I come back it's dropped down, same as before. However, I can't just go to it and reposition it, because if I tell it to reposition it, then it only wants me to take the object. I have to actually get into workshop mode to reposition the object. And when you tell it you want to reposition the object, it'll take you out of workshop mode, in which case then you can reposition it. But then you got to do the same thing over again for the next object. So I've got a whole line of shelves here that are not stocked, and if I try to do this, I'm going to be another month trying to stock all these shelves. So as much as I hate to say it, I probably am not going to finish this build. I'm probably just going to start a new playthrough, and in my new playthrough I may start another big Super Duper Mart type build and redo it there, because you know, then I won't have to worry about it. But tomorrow I'm going to do a tips and tricks on stocking shelves to show you the process I use, and after that I think it's going to be a new playthrough, so I wouldn't count on seeing anything more from this settlement, as much as I hate to say it. But that said, you know, I had fun with the build, and I did learn some things from it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button. I appreciate it when you do. And I want to thank everybody for watching, and I will see you again next week.